"Sorry, ma'am, your name isn't on the list." The words landed like a slap. The man in the tuxedo didn't even look sorry. He just scanned the tablet again and shook his head. Guests floated past me, laughter and perfume trailing behind them. The air smelled of champagne and roses, expensive, polished, perfect. My sister's wedding. I adjusted the hem of my simple navy dress, the one I'd ironed 3 times to make sure not a wrinkle remained. My hands didn't shake. They should have. But I'd learned a long time ago, control is the only armor that truly fits. "I'm the bride's sister," I said quietly. He frowned as if he'd misheard. "Sister?" Before I could respond, I heard it. My mother's voice behind me, cool and coated with sugar. "Did you really think you were invited?" I turned. She stood there in her sequined gown, pearls glinting under the chandelier. Her lips curved into a smirk I knew too well. "Strangers aren't allowed, darling." The laughter from the guests faded into background noise. And in that still moment, something inside me broke cleanly, without sound, without warning. I smiled, calm, controlled. Then I'll live like a stranger. And I walked away. It wasn't always this way. When my father was alive, we were a family. He was the anchor that kept everything grounded. He used to say I had his eyes that see through people. Maybe that's why my mother never liked looking into them. After he passed, things changed. My mother built a new image, one made of charity galas, curated smiles, and lies. My sister fit right into it. Perfect hair, perfect grades, perfect husband to be. And me? The quiet one who asked too many questions. The one who didn't fit her narrative. She rewrote our story without me in it. And that night, she made sure everyone knew it. But the thing about being erased is that it gives you room to move unseen. I didn't cry. Not in the car, not in the weeks after. Instead, I planned. My father left behind more than memories. He left an investment portfolio, one my mother never understood, and one she assumed was worthless because it wasn't under her control. What she didn't know was that I'd inherited it legally on my 25th birthday. She'd sold the house, the furniture, even his old watch. But she couldn't touch that account. And for years, I'd done nothing with it, until now. The wedding was her crown jewel, her way of flaunting the perfect family. I made sure it would also be her undoing. I didn't need to ruin the wedding, I just needed to ruin the illusion. 3 weeks before the ceremony, I called a discreet appraiser, one specializing in luxury estates. My mother's current mansion, the one she bought after selling everything my father built, had one flaw. She never fully owned it. She was renting it, on a ballooned mortgage she could barely afford. The appraiser confirmed what I suspected. The owner had been looking for a buyer. So I made an offer, quietly, through my lawyer. Cash. Immediate. By the time the papers were signed, my mother was still rehearsing her smile for the cameras. The wedding day came. I showed up out of respect, not to crash, just to see how far she'd go. And she went far, far enough to humiliate me publicly, with that smirk that said, "I won." I let her have it. I let her think she'd won. Then I left, as quietly as I came. An hour later, when the ceremony began, my phone vibrated once. Then again. Then again. I didn't answer, but I knew what was happening. Because while she was walking my sister down the aisle, her phone was lighting up with calls from the property manager, informing her that the new owner had officially taken possession of the estate, that the locks had been changed, that her belongings were being held until further notice. I imagined her face, the confusion first, then the panic, then realization. The address she listed as her own was no longer hers. The house she bragged about wasn't hers to return to. and the woman she called a stranger owned every wall of it. Later that evening, my sister called. She didn't know the details, just that Mom had left the reception mid-toast, pale and shaking. I told her I hoped the day was still beautiful. She cried softly, said she wished I'd been there. I told her she'd made her choice, same as I did. When I hung up, I watched the city lights flicker from my apartment window. It was quiet, peaceful. My mother tried calling me too, 8 times, then 16, then silence. I haven't spoken to her since. They say revenge is cold, maybe, but mine wasn't cold. It was measured, precise. She called me a stranger, so I became one. Only now she lives as the stranger, homeless in the life she built on lies. And I live quietly, freely, in the house she once called home.